Hey everybody, so as a lot of you know, I've been working on a project the last few months for my master's thesis, but I haven't really explained what it is about, and that's because I wasn't sure what I was building would work, so I wanted to wait to be sure that it was working before I made a big announcement about it. So I'm happy to say it finally is working, and I just wanted to make a video explaining what it is and what I'll be doing with it, and I'm just really excited to share it with all of you. So every project kind of starts out with a question, and the question that I was interested in is how intelligent chimpanzees are. And that's kind of a loaded question. I mean, you can have a whole discussion about what is intelligence and is it fair to measure it in another species? How do you measure it in another species? But suffice it to say that there's different kinds of intelligence. And I wanted to build something that would let me test this specific kind of intelligence called inductive reasoning ability. And that's just the ability that lets Sherlock Holmes solve mysteries, lets you solve Sudoku puzzles, or any puzzle really. It's how we solve problems. Whenever there's any number of things that could be a problem, it's how we eliminate certain options and come to the right answer. So that's what this box is for, and here it is. So this is basically just a computer and a kind of chimp-proof box. And I say kind of just because you never can tell. But what we have here is just a series of buttons that the chimps can push, and this is how they're answering the questions that'll be posed on this screen here. So we've got plexiglass covering this whole thing just because we got a lot of electronics inside and we want to keep them nice and dry. And then we've got bamboo along the edges here, and what this does is just creates a kind of a space in between the buttons and the mesh that this box will be hanging on so that they can push them well. And we've also got a little food tray that we want to have room for right here. So I've also spray stenciled some bamboo on here just to make the box look a little nicer. I know it looks like a certain illegal drug, but it is not that. It is bamboo, I promise. So this is how the chimps are going to get it every time. There's going to be a white circle on the screen, and then the white circle button down here is going to be lit. So in order to start the trial, you just got to push that button, and everything starts getting underway. So what we see are two prompts on the screen. We see a red square and then a yellow circle. And then the corresponding buttons light up. We have the red square and the yellow circle. But there's a third button that doesn't match what's on the screen, and this is what's going to be the right answer in every trial, no matter how complicated the level is. So we're going to go ahead and push that. Going to hear a little chime, and then a food pellet drops out. So this is the food reward for the chimp every time, and this is what really keeps them motivated because, I mean, the same goes for people. Food is a really great motivator. So after that, the trials just keep on going. You have a yellow triangle this time and a blue circle, and those corresponding buttons light up too. But then you've also got another button here that same as the last time, blue triangle. Gonna push that one, and the food pellet will pop out again. So this just keeps going on and on and on. And the better they are at the task, the chimps, the more difficult the tasks will become later on. Eventually, more and more buttons light up in each level. And I'll go ahead and skip to the hardest level. This is the one where they're absolutely brilliant if they get to this level. And I'm hoping to see one or two chimps at least get to this point. And this is what the final level looks like. This is what I'm calling the Einstein level. So if they're going to get to this level, they're going to have whizzed past all of those previous levels. But the thing that all those previous levels have in common is you just need to pick the button that isn't on the screen. So if you have that simple rule, you can pass them no matter what. It's easy. But here, we take away all of the buttons from the screen and we just have characteristics that we use to exclude potential answers. So in this case, the answer can't be red, it can't be blue, it can't be a square, and it can't be a triangle, which just leaves us the yellow circle. And that's the right answer. So this is a really great way to make sure that the chimps are really demonstrating inductive reasoning ability, and it's going to be really awesome if we can get one or two chimps to this point. I'm really hoping we do. But the whole point of this study, too, is to test it as a form of enrichment, this box. Because, unfortunately, a downside of captivity, even in a sanctuary, is limited space. So we want to be able to give chimps enrichment in order to make that space more valuable and just more engaging. So this is how we improve their lives, by giving them these kinds of things. Another thing, though, is that we're providing them agency, which is just a fancy word for choice. They have a choice. They can play with this or not. It's totally up to them. And that's a world of difference between living in a sanctuary and the laboratory from where they came from, because they had next to no choice there. So this is, there's a lot of papers that really demonstrate that this kind of enrichment is really great and that they do choose to engage in this kind of enrichment all the time. So that's why I was really drawn to this kind of thing. And now I'm going to show you what the insides look like. And this is it right here. It looks really complicated, and I assure you it absolutely is really complicated. So it did not look like this a week and a half ago. I got into contact with my programmer and he gave me a whole new wiring diagram, and it's been working better and better every day since then. So what we have here is our computer monitor. It was salvaged from a computer monitor that's designed to work with these kinds of circuit boards specifically. Right here is a little camera, and this just snaps a photo each time a button is pushed so that we can be sure that the same chimp is answering between each trial. And that's just how we gauge performance. We can tell who's doing really well and who's not doing as well. All these buttons, they're purchased from a website designed for hobby arcade builders. So like those old school arcade box games, these are what these buttons are designed for. And they're pretty cheap. Here's a PVC tube. This is what we're going to fill all the pellets in. You could fit a lot here. They could play for hours and hours if we fill that thing up all the way. Down here is a servo motor. It's kind of hard to see, but this is what spins the little wheel that the pellets fall into, and it spins just enough for one pellet to fall out at a time. Here's our little speaker. And then right here, this is the brain of the operation. This is the Raspberry Pi. It's just a microcomputer. It is really cheap. It's like $35, and this is what controls everything. It's designed for hobby electrician people. Anyone interested in trying to get into computers and electronics as a hobby, this is like such a great thing to play around with. So everything in here plugs into the Raspberry Pi somehow. This little board here, this is a stepper motor hat. This is the middleman between the stepper motor and the Raspberry Pi. It helps those two things communicate. And that's actually sitting on top of another board that half the wires from the buttons plug into, just so that they can get power. And that's why that board's called a hat, this one here, just because it sits on top of another board. And this is a hub. This is the middleman between the monitor and the computer itself. Wouldn't be able to work without that. And then this thing is what the programmer gave me to put in. So the problem I was having before was basically too many things were plugged into the Raspberry Pi, and it just couldn't handle running all those things at once. It's like its hands were too full. And what this does is just increases the number of things it can do at any one time, and that's what's made all the difference. So yeah, everything, it's pretty simple actually. The wires make it look tangled and it's complicated, but it really, in the end, is more simple than it looks. So that's pretty much everything. I'm so excited to be done, and I'm so stoked to be able to give it to the chimps. I can't wait for them to have a go at it, and hopefully I'll have some really promising results. And ultimately, it's just about showing people that animals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And it's such an awesome feeling to be one of those people proving that with this kind of work. So this is something I really enjoy doing, and I hope I get to do a lot more of it in the future. So hopefully I'll have a great update for you guys in a few months' time, and I'll be taking lots of recordings, and it's gonna be a blast. Anyway, that's it, and thanks for watching.